Ryan Whitmore, a driven millionaire, sacrificed everything for his career. When his neglected past resurfaces in the form of a 9-year-old son, he faces a heart-wrenching choice between corporate power and a chance at redemption. Before we dive into the story, let's do what Sleepless in Seattle taught us. Share where you're listening from. Comment below. The city stretches beneath Ryan Whitmore's corner office like a sprawling circuit board, its streets pulsing with the steady rhythm of traffic, 37 floors below. He stands motionless before the floor-to-ceiling window, hands clasped behind his back, watching his reflection superimposed over San Francisco's skyline. The tailored gray suit fits perfectly, every crease deliberate, every line exact. Yet his eyes in the glass are flat, devoid of the triumph that should accompany his position at the helm of Whitmore Innovations. A notification chirps from his desk. Another email, another meeting, another decision requiring his attention. Ryan doesn't turn. The setting sun paints the surrounding buildings in shades of amber and gold, but the light fails to penetrate the carefully constructed fortress of his office. An unfinished presentation glows on his oversized monitor, charts and projections, waiting for his final approval. His gaze drifts to the plaque mounted near his desk. Forbes Top 40 Under 40. The words should fill him with pride, should validate the countless hours and sacrifices that elevated him to this position. Instead, they mock him with their hollow achievement. His phone buzzes again, more insistent this time. The world beyond his window teems with life and movement. But up here, in his glass and steel sanctuary, the silence presses against his ears like cotton wool. Ryan smooths an invisible wrinkle from his sleeve, the gesture automatic, practiced. Control and precision, these are the cornerstones he's built his empire upon. Yet lately, the weight of that empire seems to press harder against his shoulders, each success adding another layer of invisible burden. The door opens with a soft click, and Chloe Henderson appears, clipboard in hand. Her heels make no sound on the thick carpet as she approaches his desk. "Your 3 o'clock with the board is ready, Mr. Whitmore." Her voice carries the same efficient clip as her stride, each word measured and professional. Ryan nods without turning, dismissing her with a slight wave of his hand. She retreats as quietly as she entered, leaving him alone with his reflection once more. Finally, he moves to his desk, settling into the black leather chair with practiced ease. His fingers find their familiar position on the keyboard, moving with mechanical precision across multiple screens. Financial reports scroll past his eyes, growth projections, market analyses, investor communications. Each document demands his attention. Each decision carries the weight of consequences that ripple through his company like waves through still water. The tasks blur together, a never-ending stream of responsibilities that fill his days and stretch into his nights. Ryan pauses, his cursor hovering over his calendar. The screen before him maps out the next 6 months of his life in 15-minute increments, each block of time allocated with ruthless efficiency. There are no gaps, no spaces for unexpected developments or spontaneous decisions. The schedule spreads before him like a prison of his own making, yet he can't remember choosing to build these walls. The board meeting proceeds like a well-rehearsed play. Ryan presents the quarterly results with practiced confidence, his voice steady as he outlines their record-breaking performance. The senior executives nod in approval, their faces reflecting the satisfaction of continued success. James Caldwell, the CFO, claps him on the shoulder as the meeting concludes. "You're unstoppable, Ryan," James says, his grin wide and genuine. "Another quarter like this, and we'll have to build a bigger vault." The words slide off Ryan like rain on glass. He manages a polite smile, murmuring the expected thanks as the room empties. When the last executive disappears through the door, Ryan remains seated at the head of the conference table. His reflection stretches across the polished surface, fragmented by water glasses and laptops left behind. A framed newspaper article catches his eye from the wall. Ryan Whitmore, the man who has it all. The irony tastes bitter in his mouth. He exhales slowly, feeling the hollow ache spread through his chest like frost across a window. For a moment, brief but sharp as broken glass, a question surfaces in his mind. What if I don't have it all? The thought dissipates as quickly as it forms, pushed aside by years of practiced discipline. Ryan straightens his tie, gathers his materials, and strides from the conference room. The question lingers, unspoken but persistent, like a shadow he can't quite shake. Days blur together in an endless cycle of meetings and decisions. Ryan arrives at 7 each morning, the same coffee order waiting on his desk, black, no sugar, the cup positioned precisely on a steel coaster. Meetings fill his calendar in an unbroken chain until 7 in the evening, when dinner arrives in pristine white containers, ordered by Chloe without need for consultation. Even weekends offer no respite. Strategy sessions blur into business calls, each conversation adding another brick to the wall between Ryan and the world beyond his office. He moves through the bustling hallways like a ghost, Chloe trailing in his wake, her voice a constant stream of updates and reminders that barely register. The development team needs approval on the new interface design by end of day, she says, matching his stride. And the London office requested a video call to discuss the European expansion. I've scheduled it for 9 tonight. Ryan nods, the movement automatic. Colleagues step aside as he passes, offering respectful greetings that feel more like acknowledgments of his position than genuine interaction. Their smiles never quite reach their eyes, their conversations never straying beyond the safe confines of business matters. In the break room, he pauses to refill his coffee cup. 2 junior developers fall silent as he enters, but their whispered conversation carries in the quiet space. Machine, one mutters to the other. Heard he worked through his father's funeral last month, didn't even take a day off. Ryan keeps his expression neutral as he leaves, the coffee untouched. The words shouldn't sting. He's cultivated this image, after all. Efficiency over emotion, results over relationships. Yet something about the casual dismissal of his humanity settles like lead in his stomach. The networking gala that evening feels like another performance, another role to play. The grand ballroom of the Fairmont pulses with the energy of San Francisco's tech elite, their conversations a steady hum beneath crystal chandeliers. Ryan moves through the crowd with practiced ease, accepting congratulations and fielding questions about Whitmore Innovation's latest successes. Samantha Reeves, a corporate lawyer he's worked with on several acquisitions, appears at his elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. Her black dress hints at curves without revealing them, her smile calculated to invite conversation. Quite the quarter you've had, she says, offering him one of the glasses. The market's still buzzing about your AI breakthrough. Ryan accepts the champagne with a practiced smile. The team deserves the credit, I just provide direction. Always so modest. Samantha steps closer, her perfume subtle but distinct. Some of us know better. I heard the algorithm was your design. The conversation continues, each exchange measured and predictable. Samantha's eyes sparkle with interest, but Ryan feels the familiar wall between them, invisible but impenetrable. Her words bounce off its surface, failing to penetrate the carefully maintained distance he keeps from everyone in his orbit. After several minutes of polite discussion, Ryan excuses himself, stepping onto the balcony. The night air carries a hint of fog, softening the city lights below. His phone buzzes in his pocket. A text from James. Where did you disappear to? The night's young. Ryan stares at the screen until it dims, then darkens completely. The isolation that's become his constant companion feels heavier tonight, more suffocating than the fog that creeps between the buildings below. Late that night, Ryan searches through his desk drawer for a specific flash drive containing acquisition proposals. His fingers brush something metallic, unexpected. He pulls out an old keychain, its surface dulled with age. A small photo is tucked inside the clear plastic window, protected from time but not from memory. Elena Parker smiles up at him from the photograph, her brown eyes warm and alive even in the faded image. The sight of her hits him like a physical blow, unleashing a flood of memories he spent years containing. Stolen kisses between classes, dreams whispered in the dark of his cramped college apartment, the scent of jasmine in her hair on summer evenings. The keychain feels hot in his hand, heavy with regret and possibilities long abandoned. Ryan shoves it back into the drawer, but Elena's smile lingers in his mind like an after-image. That was a lifetime ago, he mutters, the words falling flat in the empty office. The next morning finds Ryan at his usual coffee shop, seated across from David Thompson. The retired tech mogul studies Ryan over his espresso, his expression thoughtful. Sunlight streams through the windows, catching the silver in David's hair and the concern in his eyes. "When's the last time you took a real break?" David asks, his voice carrying the weight of years of mentorship. Ryan shifts in his chair, uncomfortable under the direct question. "The market doesn't take breaks, David. You taught me that." "Did I?" David sets down his cup with deliberate care. "Funny how wisdom changes with time. I thought success would fill the void too. But one day I woke up and realized I was alone with my achievements, and it wasn't enough." Ryan forces a chuckle, though the sound feels hollow in his throat. "I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. The company will survive without you being chained to your desk 24/7. David's gaze pierces through Ryan's carefully maintained facade. "Don't wait until it's too late to realize what matters." The words follow Ryan back to his office, echoing in the spaces between meetings and decisions. That evening, after another 15-hour day, he stands at his window watching darkness settle over the city. The thought of returning to his empty penthouse, just with its pristine surfaces and deafening silence, fills him with an unfamiliar dread. Without conscious decision, Ryan grabs his coat and leaves the office. His feet carry him through streets he usually only sees from above, past restaurants full of laughing couples and families enjoying late dinners. The sounds of their happiness drift around him like music from a distant room, highlighting the silence of his own existence. He finds himself in Briarwood Park, a place he hasn't visited since Elena. The cool night air carries the scent of grass and earth, so different from the filtered atmosphere of his office. Ryan sinks onto a bench, watching shadows play across the darkened trees. A sudden burst of laughter breaks through his reverie. A soccer ball bounces past, followed by a small figure in constant motion. The boy, perhaps 9 or 10, retrieves the ball with the boundless energy of youth. As he turns, his unruly hair falls across his eyes in a familiar way that makes Ryan's heart stutter. "Sorry, mister." The boy grins, his expression open and unguarded. He studies Ryan with frank curiosity, head tilted slightly to one side. "Hey, you look like someone from Mommy's picture." Ryan's brow furrows. "What picture?" The boy shrugs, still smiling. "The one she keeps in her purse." Before Ryan can process this information, the child races off toward the playground, the soccer ball tucked under his arm. Ryan watches him go, something tugging at the edges of his awareness. There's something about the boy's features, the way he moves, that feels hauntingly familiar. As if reading his thoughts, the child turns back with a final wave. "Bye, mister. Mommy's waiting. Her name's Elena." The name hits Ryan like a physical blow, driving the air from his lungs. Elena. His Elena. The boy's face suddenly snaps into focus. Those eyes, that smile, the way his hair falls across his forehead. Ryan's chest constricts as understanding crashes over him like a wave. Could Jamie be his son? The timing would fit. Memories of his last moments with Elena flood back. Her tears, his cold dismissal, the way he chose a crucial meeting over their relationship. The void that's lived inside him for so long suddenly feels unbearable, filled with questions and possibilities he never allowed himself to consider. Ryan stands, his legs unsteady. The carefully constructed walls of his life have cracked, letting in a flood of emotions he's spent years containing. This chance encounter has opened a door he thought was sealed forever, and he knows with crushing certainty that he has to know the truth. The boy, Jamie, disappears around a corner, taking with him Ryan's illusion of control. The night air feels electric now, charged with possibility and terror in equal measure. Ryan's phone buzzes in his pocket, probably Chloe with another urgent matter requiring his attention. For the first time in years, he lets it ring unanswered, his focus entirely on the path where Jamie vanished. He has to know. Everything else, the company, the meetings, the carefully maintained image of success, suddenly feels insignificant compared to this one burning question. Is Jamie his son? And if he is, what does that mean for the life Ryan has built, the walls he's constructed, the emptiness he's learned to ignore? Ryan stands at his window watching darkness settle over the city. The thought of returning to his empty penthouse with its pristine surfaces and deafening silence fills him with an unfamiliar dread. Without conscious decision, Ryan grabs his coat and leaves the office. His feet carry him through streets he usually only sees from above. past restaurants full of laughing couples and families enjoying late dinners. The sounds of their happiness drift around him like music from a distant room, highlighting the silence of his own existence. He finds himself in Briarwood Park, a place he hasn't visited since Elena. The cool night air carries the scent of grass and earth, so different from the filtered atmosphere of his office. Ryan sinks onto a bench, watching shadows play across the darkened trees. The soccer ball bounces across Ryan's path, its red and white panels bright against the darkening grass. He watches it roll to a stop near his feet, the unexpected intrusion drawing him from his thoughts. Quick footsteps follow, and a boy appears, 9, maybe 10 years old, his cheeks flushed from running. "Sorry, mister!" The child's voice carries clearly across the evening air. He retrieves the ball, brushing unruly dark hair from his eyes with a gesture that triggers something in Ryan's memory, though he can't place why. "I didn't mean to bother you." Ryan finds himself sitting straighter, studying the boy's features. There's something familiar in the slope of his nose, the set of his jaw. "No bother," he says, surprised by the gentleness in his own voice. The boy, instead of running off, lingers, head tilted slightly as he studies Ryan with frank curiosity. His soccer ball tucks under one arm, while his free hand fidgets with the hem of his blue t-shirt. "Hey," he says suddenly, eyes widening. "You look like someone from Mommy's picture." The statement catches Ryan off guard. "What picture?" "The one she keeps in her purse." The boy steps closer, his examination more intense now. "It's kind of old, but it's definitely you. Mommy looks at it sometimes when she thinks I'm not watching." He pauses, scuffing one sneaker against the ground. "She gets sad when she looks at it." Ryan's throat tightens. "Does she show you the picture often?" "Nah, but I've seen it. You're younger in it, but you've got the same serious face." The boy grins, demonstrating by pulling his features into an exaggerated frown. "Like this." Despite himself, Ryan feels his lips twitch toward a smile. The boy's presence carries an energy that seems to cut through the careful walls he's built around himself. "What's your name?" "Jamie." He bounces the soccer ball once, catching it with easy grace. "I live over there." He points vaguely toward the east side of the park. "Mom lets me practice here after homework. I'm getting pretty good. Want to see a trick?" Before Ryan can respond, Jamie drops the ball and executes a somewhat wobbly kick-up, managing to bounce it off his knee twice before it escapes his control. The ball rolls back toward Ryan, who stops it with his foot, a gesture that feels both foreign and achingly familiar. "Not bad," Ryan says, surprising himself again with the warmth in his voice. "Keep practicing." Jamie beams at the praise, and something in his smile, the way it lights up his whole face, sends a jolt through Ryan's chest. He's seen that smile before, years ago, in photographs he's tried to forget. "Jamie!" A woman's voice calls from the direction of the playground. "Time to go home." "Coming." Jamie scoops up his ball, then turns back to Ryan with that devastating smile. "Bye, mister. Mommy's waiting. Her name's Elena." The name hits Ryan like a physical blow. Time seems to stop, the world narrowing to this single moment. Elena. The Elena he loved. The Elena he lost. Jamie's features suddenly snap into sharp focus. Those eyes, that smile, the familiar gestures he couldn't place before. Each detail falls into place like pieces of a puzzle he never knew he was solving. Ryan stands, his legs unsteady beneath him. "Wait," he calls. But Jamie has already disappeared around the bend in the path, leaving only the echo of his laughter behind. The implications crash over Ryan in waves. The timing would fit. God, how it would fit. The last time he saw Elena, that final argument in his apartment, her tears, his cold dismissal of her concerns about his growing obsession with work, the way she tried to tell him something important, and he'd cut her off, rushing to a meeting that seemed crucial at the time. He takes a step forward, then stops. His carefully constructed world tilts on its axis. Jamie would be the right age. He has Elena's smile, but that serious expression Jamie had mimicked, Ryan sees it every day in his own reflection. The dark hair that falls across his forehead in that particular way, the set of his jaw, the grace of his movements. Ryan's phone buzzes insistently in his pocket. Probably Chloe, with another crisis that needs his immediate attention. For the first time in his career, he ignores it completely. The carefully maintained schedule, the pending decisions, the entire empire he's built, all of it feels hollow compared to this moment of revelation. His heart pounds against his ribs as the truth settles over him like a physical weight. Jamie is his son, who lives within walking distance of this park. His son, who's been growing up without him, while Ryan chased success and accolades that suddenly seem meaningless. The void inside him, the emptiness he's ignored for so long, threatens to swallow him whole. How many moments has he missed? First steps, first words, first day of school, all lost while he built his fortress of achievements. The thought brings a pain so acute, it's almost physical. Ryan sinks back onto the bench, his legs no longer able to support him. The park grows darker around him, but he barely notices. His mind races with questions. Does Elena ever talk about him? Does Jamie wonder about his father? How could he have let this happen? The carefully constructed walls of his life have cracked, letting in a flood of emotions he spent years containing. This chance encounter has opened a door he thought was sealed forever, and the professional distance he's maintained from his own feelings crumbles in the face of this revelation. Tomorrow, he'll have to decide what to do with this knowledge. Tomorrow, he'll have to face the consequences of choices made years ago. But for now, Ryan sits in the gathering darkness, feeling more alive and more terrified than he has in years, as the sound of Jamie's laughter echoes in his memory like a bell that can't be unrung. The weight of his phone in his pocket, the demands of his company, the carefully scheduled meetings that fill his calendar, all of it seems distant and unimportant compared to the reality of Jamie's existence. Ryan Whitmore, the man who built an empire on control and precision, finds himself facing a truth that defies all his carefully laid plans. Somewhere in this city, his son is going home with Elena, while he sits alone in the dark, wondering how he never knew what he was missing until this moment. Ryan's office feels smaller today, the floor-to-ceiling windows pressing in like the walls of an aquarium. The financial reports on his monitor blur into meaningless patterns of red and green. He's read the same paragraph 5 times, but the words refuse to stick. Instead, his mind keeps circling back to the park, to Jamie's smile, to the way the boy's hair fell across his forehead in that achingly familiar way. "This is ridiculous," he mutters, pressing his fingertips against his temples. The pressure does nothing to quiet the questions ricocheting through his skull. Plenty of women are named Elena. Plenty of kids have dark hair and quick smiles. The coincidence nags at him like a loose thread. Pull it, and his carefully constructed world might unravel. The intercom buzzes. "Mr. Whitmore?" Chloe's voice carries its usual precise clip. "The quarterly projections are ready for your review." "Send them through." His own voice sounds distant, mechanical. The new spreadsheet appears on his screen, another wall of numbers demanding his attention. Ryan grabs his pen, gripping it until his knuckles whiten. Focus. He manages 3 minutes of concentrated effort before Jamie's face intrudes again, the way his eyes had widened in recognition, the certainty in his voice when he mentioned the photograph. The pen snaps in Ryan's fist, startling him. Ink bleeds across his palm like an accusation. He shoves back from his desk and strides to the window. 37 floors below, San Francisco carries on its relentless dance of traffic and pedestrians. The familiar view that usually grounds him now feels like a reminder of his isolation. The ground seems farther away than usual, the distance between his glass tower and the real world below suddenly vast and meaningful. His reflection stares back at him, suit perfect, tie straight, every hair in place. The control he's built his life around feels paper thin. If Jamie is the thought stalls out. He can't even complete it in his own mind. Ryan's palm slams against the window frame, the sharp crack of impact echoing through his office. The burst of pain helps clear his head, but the clarity brings no peace. The need to know claws at his chest, relentless as a hungry animal. His phone sits on his desk, a sleek black rectangle containing countless connections, none of them meaningful. Ryan strides back, snatches it up, his fingers moving through his contacts before he can second-guess himself. The number hasn't changed in 3 years. Harlan Quinn Investigations, a gravelly voice answers on the second ring. Ryan's throat tightens. Harlan, it's Ryan Whitmore. A pause, then a low chuckle. Been a while, Mr. Whitmore. What kind of corporate skeleton needs digging up this time? This is personal. The word feels foreign on Ryan's tongue. I need you to find everything you can about a woman named Elena Parker and her son. The silence stretches for 2 heartbeats. Must be important if you're calling me direct instead of going through channels. Just find them, Harlan. Whatever it costs. I'll be in touch. The call ends, leaving Ryan alone with the weight of what he's set in motion. The office seems to pulse with nervous energy that matches his own. He tries to return to work, but the next 3 days blur together in a haze of distraction. Thursday's strategy meeting drags into its second hour. James Caldwell, the CFO, drones on about market penetration and growth vectors, but Ryan barely registers the words. His phone sits silent on the conference table, each minute without news from Harlan stretching like taffy. Ryan? James's voice cuts through the fog. You good? Ryan blinks, finding every face at the table turned toward him. He straightens, adjusting his tie. Continue. James frowns but resumes his presentation. Ryan forces himself to nod at appropriate intervals, but his mind wanders to a park bench and a soccer ball, to questions that burn like acid in his chest. That night, his penthouse feels especially empty. Ryan paces the length of his living room, the city lights below offering no comfort. Sleep eludes him. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees Jamie's face, searching for his own features in the boy's smile, his jaw, the set of his shoulders. The next morning dawns gray and cool. Ryan's about to step into the monthly board meeting when his phone vibrates. Harlan's name flashes on the screen. Without a word to Chloe, Ryan ducks into an empty conference room. His heart hammers against his ribs as he answers. Tell me. Jamie Parker, Harlan says without preamble. 9 years old. Born at St. Mary's Hospital. Mother Elena Parker. No father listed on the birth certificate. Ryan's fingers dig into the edge of the conference table. And I ran a DNA comparison using the samples you provided. Mr. Whitmore? Harlan pauses, his voice softening slightly. The boy's yours. No doubt about it. The room tilts sideways. Ryan sinks into the nearest chair, his legs suddenly unable to support him. The truth he's been both dreading and hoping for crashes over him like a wave, leaving him gasping. There's more. Harlan continues. They live in a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. Elena's a graphic designer, freelance mostly. Jamie's in 4th grade at PS8, good student, plays soccer. I can send you the full report. Thanks, Harlan. Ryan's voice sounds strange in his own ears. That's enough. The call ends. Ryan sits motionless, his reflection fractured across the glossy conference table surface. Jamie is his son. His son. The words echo in his mind, foreign and familiar at once. 9 years of moments he's missed, birthdays and first steps and scraped knees, all while he climbed higher in his glass tower, chasing success that suddenly feels hollow. The rest of the day passes in a fog. Ryan moves through his meetings like an automaton, his responses mechanical, his mind elsewhere. By evening, he can no longer contain the storm of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. He finds himself outside Elena's brownstone just as the streetlights flicker to life. The building looks exactly like Harlan's photos. 3 stories of weathered brick, black shutters, window boxes spilling over with late summer flowers. Ryan clutches a bouquet of white lilies, Elena's favorite. His hand shakes slightly as he raises it to knock. The door opens and time stops. Elena Parker stands in the doorway, her brown eyes widening in shock. The years have changed her. Subtle lines frame her mouth, and her hair is shorter than he remembers, but the sight of her still hits him like a physical blow. Ryan, she whispers, his name carrying a decade of history. We need to talk. His voice comes out rougher than intended. Elena doesn't move for a long moment. Finally, she steps back, allowing him inside. The living room is warm and lived in, nothing like his sterile penthouse. Photos of Jamie line the walls, school pictures, soccer games, candid moments of childhood Ryan has missed. Each image feels like an accusation. Why didn't you tell me? The words escape before he can soften them. Elena wraps her arms around herself, a gesture he remembers from their last fight. Why? You were obsessed with your career, Ryan. You barely had time for me, let alone... She breaks off, pain flashing across her face. When I found out I was pregnant, I knew you wouldn't want that responsibility. It would have interfered with your perfect plan. You didn't give me a choice. Ryan's fingers tighten around the lilies. 9 years, Elena. 9 years of his life. You were already gone. Elena's voice cracks. Long before I left. Every time I needed you, there was another meeting, another deal, another reason why work had to come first. I was protecting Jamie, protecting myself. The truth in her words stings like salt in an open wound. The lilies slip from Ryan's grasp, forgotten. He remembers the last time he saw Elena, tears streaming down her face as he rushed out the door, late for a meeting that seemed crucial at the time. She'd tried to tell him something important, but he'd cut her off, promised to talk later. Later never came. I want to know my son, Ryan says quietly, the words carrying the weight of 9 years of absence. Elena's eyes soften slightly, but her voice remains guarded. Wanting isn't enough, Ryan. Jamie deserves consistency. Can you give him that? Can you be there for soccer games and parent-teacher conferences? Can you put him before the next big deal? Before Ryan can respond, a small figure appears in the doorway. Jamie rubs his eyes sleepily, wearing Pokemon pajamas. Mom? He stops, blinking at Ryan with dawning recognition. Ryan's heart lurches in his chest. Up close, the resemblance is unmistakable. His own eyes stare back at him from a younger face. I'm a friend, Ryan manages, his voice barely steady. Jamie tilts his head, studying Ryan with frank curiosity. You look like me, he says matter-of-factly. The simple observation shatters something in Ryan's chest. Elena makes a small sound, somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Jamie moves closer, clutching a toy car. His presence fills the room with an innocent energy that cuts through the tension. Why can't we all be friends? Ryan kneels down, bringing himself to Jamie's level. His eyes burn as he meets his son's gaze. I'd like that, if it's okay with your mom. Elena swallows hard. Ryan can see the battle playing out across her face, the instinct to protect warring with something softer, more hopeful. Please, Mom? Jamie's voice carries all the simple faith of childhood. Elena draws a shaky breath. We'll try, she whispers, the words barely audible. Jamie's face lights up with a smile that pierces straight through Ryan's carefully constructed defenses. Without hesitation, the boy grabs Ryan's hand, his small fingers warm and trusting. For the first time in years, Ryan feels something crack open inside his chest. Not the emptiness he's grown accustomed to, but something warmer, more terrifying, and infinitely more precious. The path ahead is uncertain, filled with challenges he can't control or predict. But as Jamie's hand tightens around his, Ryan knows with absolute clarity that he'll do whatever it takes to be worthy of this second chance. The carefully ordered world he's built, the empire of glass and steel, the endless pursuit of success, all of it pales in comparison to this moment, this connection, this opportunity to build something real. Ryan Whitmore. The man who has spent his life planning 5 moves ahead finds himself stepping into unknown territory with only one certainty: he won't let go again. Ryan's knuckles whiten around the pencil as he watches Jamie struggle with the math problem. The kitchen table in Elena's Brooklyn Heights home groans under the weight of textbooks and worksheets, its worn surface catching the afternoon light. Jamie's brow furrows in concentration, his grip on his own pencil growing tighter with each passing second. I hate fractions, Jamie mutters, erasing his work for the 3rd time. The rubber shavings scatter across the page like ash, and Ryan feels an echo of his son's frustration tighten in his chest. Ryan shifts in the wooden chair, careful to maintain a respectful distance. The urge to reach out, to comfort, to fix everything burns in his chest, but he forces himself to wait. Jamie needs to learn this on his own. Helicopter parenting won't help. Still, watching his son's struggle sends a physical ache through him. Try breaking it down, Ryan suggests, keeping his voice gentle. I used to get stuck on these too. Jamie's head snaps up, skepticism plain on his face. You did? All the time. Ryan taps the page with his pencil. Think of it like a puzzle. Each piece has its place. Jamie considers this, his expression so serious it makes Ryan's throat tight. The resemblance between them hits harder in moments like these. The determined set of Jamie's jaw, the way his dark hair falls across his forehead. 9 years of these moments lost forever. But not this one. Jamie bends back over the problem, his pencil moving with new purpose. Ryan watches, hardly daring to breathe as the numbers fall into place. When Jamie finally looks up, his entire face transforms with triumph. I did it! The words burst from him like fireworks, his grin infectious. Dad, look! The word dad hits Ryan like a physical blow. It's still new, still raw, still capable of stealing his breath. He forces his hands to remain steady as he checks Jamie's work, though his heart hammers against his ribs. Perfect, Ryan manages, his voice rougher than he intends. You see, you had it in you all along. Jamie beams, and something in Ryan's carefully constructed walls cracks a little wider. Before he can overthink it, he says, "How about we celebrate with some ice cream?" Now? Jamie's eyes go wide. But Mom usually only lets me have dessert after dinner. Ryan glances toward the kitchen doorway where Elena has been hovering periodically throughout their study session. Special occasion, he says, loud enough to carry. If your mom agrees. Elena appears in the doorway as if summoned, her arms crossed over her chest. She's wearing jeans and a simple blue sweater, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, so different from the power suits and designer dresses that populate Ryan's usual world. Something about her casual beauty makes his chest ache. Ice cream? She arches an eyebrow. On a school night? Please, Mom. Jamie clasps his hands together. I solved the fraction problem all by myself. Elena's expression softens as she looks at their son, though Ryan notices she carefully avoids meeting his eyes. All by yourself, huh? Well, Jamie glances at Ryan. Dad helped a little, but I did most of it. Elena's jaw tightens at the word dad, but she masks it quickly. I suppose we could make an exception. Just this once. Yes! Jamie jumps up, sending his chair scraping across the floor. Can we go to Milo's? The name of the ice cream shop catches Ryan off guard. Memories flood back. Summer evenings with Elena, sharing cones and dreams beneath the shop's striped awning. From Elena's sharp intake of breath, she remembers too. Sure, Ryan says, his voice carefully neutral. Milo's it is. The walk to the ice cream shop takes them through tree-lined streets that feel worlds away from Ryan's sleek downtown office. Jamie bounces ahead, his energy seemingly limitless, while Ryan and Elena follow at a careful distance. The space between them feels charged with unspoken words. Milo's hasn't changed. Same pastel-colored walls, same bell above the door that chimes as they enter. The teenager behind the counter looks bored until Jamie presses his face against the glass display case, fogging it with his breath as he studies each flavor. Mint chocolate chip, please. Jamie's decision is immediate and certain. Ryan envies that sureness, that ability to know exactly what you want without questioning every choice. Single scoop, quickly, but Ryan's already reaching for his wallet. Double, he says, ignoring Elena's frown. And I'll have vanilla. Boring, Jamie declares, accepting his cone with both hands. You should try something fun. Ryan surprises himself by laughing. Maybe next time. They settle at one of the small tables outside, the spring air warm enough to be pleasant. Ryan watches Jamie attack his ice cream with enthusiasm, memories of his own childhood summers rising unbidden. His father had rarely had time for moments like this. Always another meeting, another crisis, another reason to be absent. Lost in thought, Ryan doesn't notice his own ice cream melting until a drop lands on his silk tie. Jamie's giggle breaks through his reverie. You're kind of messy for a grown-up, Jamie says, his own face smeared with mint chocolate chip. Ryan looks down at the spreading stain and something shifts inside him. He reaches up and loosens his tie, an act that would have been unthinkable a month ago. Guess I am. Jamie's laughter rings out again, pure and uncomplicated. Ryan catches Elena watching them, her expression unreadable. For a moment, he sees them as she must, her carefully ordered world disrupted by his presence, her son opening his heart to a father who might disappear again. The weight of all he's missed settles over him like a physical thing. First steps, first words, first day of school, moments he can never reclaim. But here, now, watching Jamie's face light up over something as simple as ice cream, Ryan feels the first real stirring of hope. From the kitchen doorway, Elena watches Ryan help Jamie with his homework, her fingers digging into her arms where they're crossed over her chest. The sound of Ryan's laughter, soft, genuine, unguarded, sends shivers down her spine. It's a sound she hasn't heard in nearly a decade, one she'd convinced herself she'd forgotten. Ryan reaches out to ruffle Jamie's hair, the gesture so natural it makes Elena's throat tight. For a moment, she catches a glimpse of the man she fell in love with all those years ago, before ambition and fear built walls between them. The tenderness in Ryan's eyes as he looks at their son is raw, real in a way that chips at her carefully maintained defenses. Memories surface without permission. Ryan's boyish grin as he outlined his dreams of changing the world, the warmth of his hand in hers as they walked through Central Park, the way he used to look at her, as if she were the answer to every question he'd ever had. But those sweet memories tangle with darker ones. Nights spent waiting for calls that never came, watching him choose work over their relationship again and again, the growing distance in his eyes as success consumed him. Elena's fingers tighten around the doorframe until her knuckles whiten. She wants to trust this version of Ryan, the one who shows up for homework sessions and laughs at their son's jokes. But fear holds her back, whispering reminders of all the ways he could hurt them both. The sound of chairs scraping against the floor pulls Elena from her thoughts. Ryan's suggesting ice cream, and Jamie's excitement is impossible to refuse. She tries to keep her voice steady as she agrees, but the mention of Milo's sends her mind spinning back to summer evenings that feel like another lifetime. Later, after Jamie has finally fallen asleep, the sugar crash hitting hard, Elena finds herself on the small balcony off the living room. The Brooklyn lights glimmer in the distance, a gentler version of Manhattan's harsh gleam. The night air carries the scent of spring, of possibility and change. The sliding door whispers open behind her. She doesn't need to turn to know it's Ryan. His presence has always affected her this way, like a shift in atmospheric pressure before a storm. Ryan moves to the railing, his suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. He stares out at the city lights, his profile sharp against the dark sky. "I didn't know it would feel like this," he says finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Being around Jamie. I didn't know how much I needed it." The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She wraps her arms around herself, trying to hold in the emotions threatening to overflow. "He needed you too, Ryan," she manages. "And you weren't there." Ryan's jaw tightens, but he doesn't deny it. He turns to face her, and the raw emotion in his eyes makes her breath catch. "I didn't know," he says. "But even if I had..." He stops, swallowing hard. "I was so lost in proving myself that I might not have been the father he needed. I was terrified of failing, of not being good enough." His voice thickens with guilt. "Success was the only thing I thought I could control. Everything else scared me." Elena feels tears burning behind her eyes. "And I was scared of being forgotten," she whispers, "of Jamie growing up with a father who was only there in name." Her voice cracks traitorously. "I hated you for a long time, but I also hated myself for still loving you." Ryan reaches for her hand, his touch tentative, almost reverent. His fingers are warm against hers, and the contact sends electricity racing up her arm. "I can't change the past," he says, "but I want to be here now, for Jamie, and for you, if you'll let me." A tear escapes, sliding down Elena's cheek. For the first time, she sees past Ryan's polished exterior to the man beneath, just as broken and afraid as she is. His vulnerability calls to something deep inside her, something she thought she'd buried years ago. Elena squeezes his hand, feeling the slight tremor in his fingers that betrays his own uncertainty. "We can't fix everything overnight, Ryan." "I know." His grip tightens fractionally. "But maybe we can try." The city hums below them, a constant reminder of the world beyond this moment. The gulf between them feels a little narrower, the path forward uncertain but no longer impossible. Elena lets herself lean into the warmth of his presence, just slightly, as the night wraps around them like a blanket. The next morning dawns clear and bright, sunlight filtering through the guest room curtains where Ryan lies awake. He's been up for hours, watching the play of light across the ceiling, his mind racing with possibilities and fears. The sounds of movement in the kitchen finally draw him from the bed. Ryan dresses with his usual precision, but something feels different. The weight of his tie, usually comforting in its familiarity, now feels almost restrictive. He loosens it slightly before heading to the kitchen, where the scent of coffee and pancakes fills the air. Jamie spots him first, his face lighting up. "Morning. Mom's teaching me how to flip pancakes." Ryan's heart swells at the simple greeting. He moves closer to the stove, where Elena stands in pajamas and bare feet, her hair tied back haphazardly. The sight of her like this, domestic, unguarded, makes his chest tight. "Mind if I help?" Ryan asks, rolling up his sleeves without waiting for an answer. Jamie eagerly hands over the spatula, and Ryan studies the bubbling pancake with the same intensity he usually reserves for quarterly reports. When he attempts to flip it, the pancake lands off-center, folded slightly on itself. Jamie's giggle fills the kitchen. "Mom does it better." I'm sure she does, Ryan agrees, catching Elena's eye. The ghost of a smile plays at her lips and something warm unfurls in his chest. They work together in a dance of careful movements in shared spaces, passing plates and syrup, their fingers brushing occasionally. It feels both foreign and achingly familiar, like a half-remembered dream. Later, as Ryan prepares to leave for a brief meeting he couldn't reschedule, Jamie's expression clouds over. Ryan kneels beside his son, their eyes level. "I'll be back in a few hours, okay?" Jamie's lower lip trembles slightly. "Promise?" The word hits Ryan like a punch to the gut. How many promises has Jamie heard and seen broken? How many times has he watched people walk away? Ryan reaches out, squeezing Jamie's shoulder gently. "I promise," he says, letting all his determination show in his voice. Jamie studies his face for a long moment before launching himself forward, wrapping his arms around Ryan's neck in a fierce hug. Ryan holds him close, breathing in the scent of syrup and childhood, and committing this moment to memory. As Ryan walks to his car, briefcase in hand, a new sense of purpose steadies his steps. The path ahead won't be easy. Balancing his demanding career with fatherhood will require sacrifices and changes he's only beginning to understand. The weight of past regrets still presses against his shoulders, but now it's accompanied by something lighter, something that feels remarkably like hope. Ryan slides behind the wheel, catching a glimpse of Jamie waving from the window. His phone buzzes with messages from the office, meetings, and decisions demanding his attention. But for the first time in his career, Ryan knows exactly where his priorities lie. The void that's lived inside him for so long doesn't feel quite so empty anymore. Ryan stands at his office window, the San Francisco skyline stretching before him like a circuit board of possibilities. His phone buzzes, another meeting reminder, but for the first time in his career, he silences it without hesitation. The photo on his desk draws his attention like a magnet. Him, Jamie, and Elena at Golden Gate Park last weekend, their smiles genuine despite the awkward newness of their situation. He picks up the frame, his thumb tracing the curve of Jamie's grin, so much like Elena's, yet with hints of his own features that still startle him. The planner on his desk lies open, its pages dense with appointments and commitments. Ryan uncaps his pen and begins crossing out meetings with swift, decisive strokes. The board of directors dinner? Canceled. The venture capital pitch session? Delegated. His calendar app glows with newly cleared afternoons and weekends, time carved out solely for Jamie. "Ryan," Chloe Henderson's voice carries an unfamiliar note of uncertainty as she hovers in the doorway, "about the investors' dinner next Thursday. I won't be attending." Ryan's voice is firm but not unkind. "Mark me as unavailable. Family time." Chloe's eyebrow arches slightly, but she doesn't argue. The shift in her boss, subtle yet seismic, hasn't gone unnoticed. Something has changed in Ryan Whitmore, something fundamental. That afternoon, Ryan's SUV idles outside Jamie's school, its sleek black exterior standing out among the minivans and modest sedans. When Jamie emerges from the building, his backpack bouncing against his shoulders, his face lights up with recognition. The expression sends a warm current through Ryan's chest. "Hey, champ," Ryan says as Jamie climbs in, reaching over to ruffle the boy's dark hair. "How about we skip the homework for an hour? I know this great ice cream place near the arcade." Jamie's laughter fills the car, bright and uninhibited. "Really? Mom usually makes me finish math first. Well, maybe we don't mention that part to her." Ryan winks, then adds more seriously, "But we'll make sure it gets done after, deal?" "Deal." Jamie's enthusiasm is contagious, and Ryan finds himself smiling more naturally than he has in years. The afternoon passes in a blur of ice cream sticky fingers and flashing arcade lights. Jamie proves surprisingly adept at skee-ball, his coordination impressive for his age. Ryan watches him play, cataloging each expression, each gesture, hunting for pieces of himself in his son's movements. The stuffed dinosaur they win becomes Jamie's prized possession, clutched tightly as they head back to Elena's brownstone. Elena stands in the living room doorway as they approach, her arms crossed not defensively, but as if holding something in. Jamie races past her, dinosaur held high. "Mom, look what Dad won for me, and I got the high score on Monster Smash." Ryan catches the slight widening of Elena's eyes at Jamie's casual use of Dad. It's still new, still tender. Her gaze flicks to Ryan, guarded but not hostile. He had a good time? He did. Ryan keeps his voice soft, aware of the delicate balance they're maintaining. He's a natural at arcade games. Must get that from you. I was always terrible at them. A ghost of a smile touches Elena's lips, but her eyes remain serious. Can you keep this up, Ryan? These afternoons, this involvement? The question hits him like a physical weight, though he'd been expecting it. His jaw tightens, not in anger, but in determination. I'm trying, Elena. I want to be here. He meets her gaze directly, letting her see the sincerity in his eyes. I need to be here. Elena sighs, a sound caught between hope and fear. Jamie's getting attached. If you pull away, she leaves the sentence unfinished, the style, but Ryan hears the warning clearly. If you hurt him like you hurt me, I'll never forgive you. Ryan takes a deep breath, steadying himself. I won't pull away. Not again. The words feel like a vow, heavy with promise and possibility. Elena studies him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nods. We'll see. As Ryan walks back to his car, he feels the fragile threads of trust beginning to weave between them. Each thread is precious, delicate. One wrong move could snap them all. But for the first time, he believes they might be strong enough to hold. Late Friday afternoon finds Ryan at his desk, his eyes tracking the clock's digital display with growing anticipation. The Mariners' baseball tickets sit in his breast pocket, a tangible reminder of his promise to Jamie. 6 o'clock. The boy's face had lit up when Ryan suggested the game, his excitement infectious. Real box seats? Jamie had asked, bouncing on his toes. Like where the important people sit? Ryan reaches for his coat, already imagining Jamie's expression when they walk down to their front row seats. The door bursts open without warning, and Chloe Henderson strides in, her face drained of color. Ryan, we have a situation. Her words come fast, clipped. The Phoenix merger. It's falling apart. Thompson's threatening to walk if we don't renegotiate immediately. The board's assembled in the conference room. Next, the weight of responsibility crashes down on Ryan's shoulders. His hand freezes on his coat. How bad? Critical. They're talking about pulling out entirely. The stock will tank if this gets out. Chloe's eyes dart to the clock. They need you in there, now. Ryan's stomach twists. He thinks of Jamie, probably already putting on his Mariner's cap, waiting by the window for Ryan's car to pull up. Can't James handle it? He knows the deal inside out. Chloe shakes her head. They specifically asked for you. James tried to take point, but Thompson won't budge. He says either he deals with you directly or the merger's dead. The familiar pull of duty wars with his newfound priorities. Ryan's fists clench at his sides, his knuckles white with tension. Tell Elena. His voice catches. Tell her I'll be late. The words taste like ash in his mouth. Chloe nods and withdraws, leaving Ryan alone with the weight of his choice. He sinks into his chair, guilt gnawing at his insides like acid. This is exactly how it started with Elena years ago. One missed dinner, one canceled weekend, one important meeting that couldn't wait. The conference room buzzes with tension when Ryan enters. Faces turn toward him, expectant, desperate. He forces himself to focus, to push thoughts of Jamie aside. Hours blur together in a haze of negotiations, counteroffers, and carefully worded threats. When Ryan finally emerges, the merger saved but hanging by a thread, the sky outside his window has long since darkened. His phone screen glows with notifications, 7 missed calls from Elena. A single text message cuts through his defenses. You promised. Ryan's heart plummets. He grabs his coat and races to the parking garage, but he already knows it's too late. The drive to Elena's house passes in a blur of self-recrimination. When he pulls up at 9 o'clock, the windows are dark. No light spills from Jamie's room, where the boy usually reads comics past his bedtime. Ryan's knuckles rap against the front door, the sound hollow in the quiet street. No response. He tries again, then once more, each knock feeling more futile than the last. Finally, he leans his forehead against the cool wood, defeat settling over him like a heavy cloak. I'm sorry, he whispers to the silent house. I'm so sorry. Morning brings no relief. Ryan stands at the edge of Briarwood Park, the place where everything changed. Autumn wind cuts through his light jacket, but the chill can't compare to the ice in his chest as he watches Elena push Jamie on the swings. His son's usual vibrancy is muted, his small face pale and drawn. Elena's movements are mechanical, each push of the swing precise but lacking warmth. Ryan approaches slowly, as if moving toward wild animals that might startle and flee. Can I talk to you? His voice sounds rough, unused. Elena's jaw tightens, but she nods. Jamie slides off the swing without being asked, trudging to a nearby bench. The sight of his dejected posture sends daggers through Ryan's heart. Ryan kneels in front of his son, Say, ignoring the damp grass soaking through his pants. I messed up, he says, his voice trembling despite his efforts to steady it. I promised you something important, and I broke that promise. I'm so sorry, Jamie. Jamie doesn't look up, his fingers picking at a loose thread on his jacket. You said you wouldn't leave again. The words come out small, wounded. Tears prick at Ryan's eyes. I know. He swallows hard, and I hate that I hurt you, both of you. He glances up at Elena, who watches with an unreadable expression. I can't keep doing this. I thought work was everything, but if I lose you two... His voice breaks. None of it matters. Ryan draws a shaky breath, steadying himself. I'm stepping back from the company. Not just delegating more, really stepping back. I need to fix this. I need to fix us. Elena's eyes widen. Are you sure about this, Ryan? The company will survive without me being there every minute. Ryan turns back to Jamie. I want to be here for you. Really here. Not just when it's convenient. Not just when work allows it. Always. He hesitates, vulnerability raw in his voice. Will you give me another chance? Jamie finally looks up, tears shimmering in his eyes. The moment stretches between them, fragile as spun glass. Then, slowly, Jamie leans forward and wraps his arms around Ryan's neck. Okay, Dad. The word sends warmth flooding through Ryan's chest. He holds Jamie close, breathing in the scent of his son's shampoo and the lingering trace of autumn air in his clothes. Over Jamie's shoulder, he sees Elena watching them, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. The morning sun breaks through the clouds, casting long shadows across the park. As Ryan holds his son, he knows this is more than just another promise. It's the beginning of a new chapter. One where schedules and meetings and mergers take their proper place in the hierarchy of importance. One where the word family means more than just a demographic checkbox on corporate forms. The work will still be there tomorrow. The company will survive. But these moments, his son's trust, Elena's cautious hope, the chance to rebuild what he nearly lost, these are the real measure of success. And for the first time in his adult life, Ryan Whitmore knows exactly where his priorities lie. Sunlight streams through the curtains of Elena Parker's brownstone, casting delicate patterns across the hardwood floors. Ryan Whitmore stands in her living room, his normally pristine suit feeling constrictive around his throat. The familiar scent of jasmine, Elena's signature perfume, mingles with the morning air, stirring memories he's kept locked away for years. Elena perches on the edge of her armchair, arms crossed, her dark eyes studying him with a guardedness that makes his chest ache. Beside her, Jamie clutches his favorite toy dinosaur, a worn T-Rex that Ryan has learned is named Rex. The boy's eyes dart between his parents, wide and uncertain. Ryan's hands tremble slightly as he lowers himself to one knee, bringing himself to Jamie's level. The polished floor is hard against his knee, but the discomfort grounds him in this moment. He takes a breath that feels like shattered glass in his lungs. Jamie, he begins, his voice rougher than he intends. The word catches in his throat, forcing him to swallow hard before continuing. I've made a lot of mistakes. His gaze flickers to Elena, whose lips press into a thin line. I put my job ahead of everything, and I wasn't there when you needed me, when both of you needed me. The admission burns like acid, but he forces himself to maintain eye contact with his son. I'm so sorry. Jamie's lower lip trembles, and tears gather in his eyes, making them shine in the morning light. The sight sends a spike of pain through Ryan's chest, sharper than any business loss he's ever experienced. He turns to Elena, his own vision blurring. Elena. Her name feels both foreign and achingly familiar on his tongue. I know words aren't enough anymore. God knows I've broken enough promises. He runs a hand through his hair, disheveling the usually perfect style. But I need you to know that I'm ready to change. Not for me. His voice cracks. For both of you. Elena uncrosses her arms slowly, her fingers gripping the arms of her chair. She studies him with the same intensity she used to have when sketching his portrait in college, back when their future seemed limitless. Her lips tremble slightly, betraying the emotion behind her composed facade. Change isn't easy, Ryan. Her voice carries the weight of years of disappointment. I need to see it, not hear it. The words land like precise blows, each one deserved. Jamie's small hand finds Ryan's, his grip surprisingly strong. I believe you, Dad. The word dad sends a jolt through Ryan's system, and tears spill onto his cheeks before he can stop them. That fragile trust in Jamie's voice is simultaneously a gift and a terror, a lifeline he knows he can't bear to break. Ryan rises to his feet, his knees protesting the movement. Years of sitting behind a desk have taken their toll, but as he straightens his spine, determination settles over him like armor. This isn't a boardroom decision or a market strategy. This is his life, his family, his one chance to get it right. I'm going to show you, he says quietly, each word carrying the weight of absolute certainty. I'm stepping back from Whitmore Innovations. The words feel like jumping off a cliff, but for the first time in his life, the fall doesn't terrify him. I'm not going to let work take me away from you again. Elena's eyes widen, genuine shock breaking through her careful mask. You'd really do that? The question holds a hint of the wonder he used to hear in her voice, back when they were young and in love. Ryan nods, his gaze steady. Yes, because if I lose this chance... He looks between Alina and Jamie, his heart pounding against his ribs. I lose everything that matters. Jamie's face lights up with cautious excitement, hope blooming across his features like sunrise. Does that mean you'll come to my science fair? The question is small but loaded with meaning, a test of his commitment wrapped in childish optimism. Ryan's smile feels foreign on his face, but genuine. I'll be there, he promises, the words carrying more weight than any contract he's ever signed. I promise. Elena draws a deep breath, and Ryan watches as something shifts in her expression. For the first time since he re-entered their lives, a flicker of hope sparks in her eyes. She nods slowly, the gesture careful but deliberate. Okay, Ryan, we'll see. The words aren't forgiveness or acceptance, but they're a chance. Right now, that's more than enough. Later that day, Ryan stands in the sleek boardroom of Whitmore Innovations, 37 floors above the streets of San Francisco. The familiar space feels different now. The floor-to-ceiling windows that once represented his achievement now seem like prison bars, the polished conference table a barrier between him and the life he wants to build. Board members line both sides of the table, their expressions ranging from confused to concerned. James Caldwell, the CFO and Ryan's longest-standing colleague, leans forward in his chair, frowning. Linda Tran, the COO, taps her pen against her tablet, her sharp eyes studying Ryan's face. Ryan's palms press flat against the cool surface of the table, the pressure helping to steady his racing heart. The murmur of whispered conversations dies as he clears his throat. I've called this meeting, he begins, his voice carrying the authority of years of leadership, because I need to make an important announcement. The silence in the room grows heavier, expectant. James shifts in his seat, his tie slightly askew, a tell that he's sensing something unprecedented. Ryan, James says, his voice carrying a note of warning. What's going on? Ryan's gaze sweeps the room, meeting each pair of eyes that have witnessed his rise to power. These people helped build his empire, shared his vision, celebrated his victories. The weight of their expectations presses against his shoulders like a physical force. I'm stepping back from my role as CEO. The words drop into the silence like stones into still water. A collective gasp ripples through the room. Linda's pen clatters against her tablet, the sound sharp in the stunned quiet. James's face flushes red, his expression cycling through disbelief to anger. Ryan, this company needs you. Linda's voice carries the edge of panic she usually reserves for major market crashes. The AI division is on the verge of a breakthrough, the European expansion. Ryan shakes his head, cutting her off. I've realized that success means nothing if I'm alone. The words taste like truth on his tongue. I've spent years chasing growth, numbers, and accolades, but I've missed the most important thing in my life, my family. James stands abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. His face is flushed, eyes blazing with a mixture of betrayal and incomprehension. Ryan, you're throwing away everything we've built. His voice bounces off the glass walls. The market will see this as weakness. The shareholders will panic. No. Ryan meets James's glare with calm resolve, the same steadiness he once used to stare down hostile takeovers. I'm choosing what matters most. I can't keep sacrificing my son and the woman I love for the sake of quarterly reports. The silence that follows is deafening. Ryan can almost hear the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic far below. Some faces around the table show disappointment, others understanding. A few, he notices, carry a hint of envy, as if they see in his choice a freedom they've never allowed themselves. James sinks back into his chair, the anger in his expression melting into resignation. I hope you know what you're doing. Ryan nods, feeling lighter than he has in years. For the first time, I do. He gathers his papers with deliberate movements, tucking them into his leather portfolio. The familiar motion feels like a farewell to a chapter of his life. As he walks toward the door, his footsteps echo in the stunned silence. Just before he reaches the threshold, he turns back. I'll stay on as a consultant during the transition, but the day-to-day leadership needs someone who can give it their full attention. His lips curve into a small smile. I'm choosing to be a father now. The door closes behind him with a soft click. As he walks through the corridors of the empire he built, past the startled faces of employees who've never seen him leave the office before sunset, a sense of liberation washes over him. The weight of expectations, of constant performance, of endless growth, it all falls away with each step. For the first time in his career, Ryan Whitmore walks out of Whitmore Innovations without checking his email, without making one last call, without giving one more instruction. He's finally free to pursue the life that truly matters. The weeks that follow blur together in a kaleidoscope of moments that Ryan once would have considered mundane, but now feels like precious gifts. The first morning after his resignation, he stands outside Brooklyn Elementary School, his hands stuffed in the pockets of his casual jacket. No suit today. His heart hammers against his ribs as he watches the school doors, wondering if this is how other parents feel every day. The bell rings, and children pour out of the building like a colorful river. Ryan spots Jamie immediately, his dark hair falling across his forehead in that familiar way that still catches Ryan's breath. Jamie's eyes scan the crowd of waiting parents, then widen as they land on Ryan. You came, Dad. The joy in Jamie's voice makes Ryan's throat tight. His son barrels into him with the unrestrained enthusiasm of childhood, nearly knocking him back a step. Of course I did. Ryan's hand finds Jamie's shoulder, steadying them both. Ready to grab some pizza. The weekend brings a trip to the Natural History Museum. Jamie darts between exhibits, his excitement infectious as he explains each dinosaur display with the authority of a miniature professor. Ryan stays close, asking questions, absorbing every detail, not because it's important for business, but because it's important to his son. Elena walks a few steps behind them, and Ryan catches her watching their interactions. A hesitant smile curves her lips as Jamie tugs Ryan toward the next exhibit, chattering about the differences between carnivores and herbivores. Ryan's phone stays tucked in his pocket, untouched. The only notifications that matter right now are the ones lighting up his son's face. When Jamie reaches for Ryan's hand in front of the T-Rex skeleton, Ryan grips it tightly. The small fingers wrapped around his own feel like an anchor, keeping him present in this moment that means more than any business deal he's ever closed. A rainy Saturday finds them in Elena's kitchen, surrounded by the controlled chaos of Jamie's science fair project. Red paint stains Ryan's fingers as he helps construct a papier-mâché volcano, following Jamie's enthusiastic, if somewhat confusing, instructions. The sound of their laughter mingles with the patter of rain against the windows. Elena moves around them, snapping photos with her phone. Ryan catches her genuine smile, the one he remembers from their college days, the one that used to make his heart skip. It still does. That night, Ryan tucks Jamie into bed, smoothing the dinosaur-covered comforter over his small frame. I love you, buddy, he whispers, the words feeling both strange and completely natural on his tongue. Jamie hugs his stuffed T-Rex close, his eyes heavy with sleep. I love you too, Dad, he murmurs, the words sending a wave of emotion through Ryan's chest. As he steps into the hallway, closing Jamie's door quietly behind him, he finds Elena waiting. The soft light from the table lamp catches the tears in her eyes, making them shimmer. I'm starting to believe this might work, she says softly, her voice carrying a vulnerability that makes his heart ache. Ryan reaches for her hand, half expecting her to pull away. She doesn't. Her fingers intertwine with his, the contact sending electricity through his skin. "I won't let you down," he promises, meaning it more than any vow he's ever made. She squeezes his hand, and in that simple gesture, Ryan feels a fragile but hopeful connection forming. For the first time in years, the void inside him begins to fill with something real, something lasting. On a crisp Sunday morning, Ryan, Elena, and Jamie return to Briarwood Park. The autumn leaves carpet the ground in shades of gold and amber, dancing in the gentle breeze. Jamie runs ahead to the playground, his laughter carried back to them on the wind. Ryan and Alina walk side by side, their pace unhurried. The silence between them feels comfortable now, free from the tension that marked their early encounters. When Ryan reaches for Alina's hand, she accepts it without hesitation, their fingers fitting together like they never forgot how. "It feels different, doesn't it?" Ryan asks, watching Jamie climb the jungle gym with fearless enthusiasm. Elena nods, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "It does, like we're finally moving forward." Jamie spots them watching and races back, his cheeks flushed with excitement. He grabs both their hands, creating a chain that feels symbolic in its simplicity. "Come on, let's go on the swings." Ryan chuckles, feeling lighter than he has in years. "Race you there!" They run together across the grass, their laughter mingling in the morning air. As Ryan pushes Jamie on the swing, matching his son's calls for "Higher, Dad, higher!" with careful pushes, he catches Elena watching them. The sunlight catches in her hair, and for a moment she looks exactly like the girl he fell in love with in college. The wounds of the past aren't gone. They both know that. But here, in this moment, with Jamie's laughter ringing in his ears and Elena's smile warming his heart, Ryan feels the hope for their future together becoming real, tangible, possible. In the weeks that follow, Ryan Whitmore learns to navigate his new life with the same dedication he once gave to quarterly reports. He consults part-time for Whitmore Innovations, offering guidance without losing himself in the endless demands of leadership. His mornings and evenings belong to Jamie and Alina, filled with homework help, family dinners, and conversations that range from dinosaur facts to dreams for the future. Elena's trust in Ryan grows slowly but steadily, her walls crumbling one small moment at a time. She starts leaving coffee out for him when he comes over early, remembering how he takes it, black, no sugar. The gesture speaks volumes about forgiveness and second chances. Jamie thrives with both parents in his life, his smile brighter than ever. His science fair project wins first place, and Ryan's genuine pride in his son's achievement has nothing to do with competition or success. It's pure, unfiltered joy in Jamie's happiness. One evening, as the three of them settle on Elena's couch for their now traditional Sunday movie night, Jamie snuggles between them, his head heavy with approaching sleep. Ryan's arm rests along the back of the couch, and Elena's hand finds his, their fingers intertwining without discussion. This is Ryan's new life, imperfect, challenging, but rich with love and meaning. He is no longer defined by his work or his achievements, but by the connections he holds dear. The second chance they've embraced is still tentative, still being built day by day, but it's founded on trust, love, and the promise of a better future. As Jamie's breathing evens out into sleep, Ryan catches Elena's eye over their son's head. The look they share carries years of history, pain, and hope, but most importantly, it carries love, the kind that's strong enough to survive mistakes, separation, and rediscovery. This, Ryan realizes, is what success really feels like. Not the cold satisfaction of closing a deal or the hollow pride of another award, but the warm, steady certainty of being exactly where he belongs with the people who matter most. The credits roll on the forgotten movie, but none of them move to turn it off. In this moment, in this quiet living room with his family, Ryan Whitmore is finally completely home. Thank you so much for watching and listening to our story. Your time and support mean the world to us. If this video resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Your engagement helps us grow and continue sharing meaningful stories. See you in the next video.